Red Voyage News, splashing the check-in. Thank you for tuning in. And man, I want to talk about this Indonesian airplane that crashed into the sea shortly after it took off on Saturday. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this is because, I've been living in Asia for 7 years now, and I've seen stuff like this happen several times now. I want to tell you about what my experiences have been traveling through different airlines out here in Asia over the years. And I'll tell you about that shortly at the end. All right. So the Sriwijaya Air, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The jet was carrying 62 people when it disappeared from radar 4 minutes into its journey to travel to another province. I can't pronounce that name. More than 10 ships have now been deployed to the site with Navy divers. The plane departed from Jakarta Airport at 2:36 p.m. Local time on Saturday. And I guess the last recorded check-in was on 2:40, so literally 4 minutes after it took off. They said the aircraft did not send a distress signal, according to the head of National Search and Rescue Agency, Air Marshal, and they say his name, but it's hard for me to pronounce that. It is thought to have dropped more than 3,000 meters in less than a minute, according to flight tracking website FlightRadar24.com. Witnesses said they had seen and heard at least one explosion. And then they give you some details about the aircraft. They said that the plane was a 26-year-old Boeing 737-500, which doesn't mean anything, and I'm going to tell you that in a little bit. They interviewed a couple people, some of the family members that were waiting at the airport for them to arrive. And one guy in particular, they interviewed him, and he said, I have 4 family members on the flight, my wife and my 3 children. And then he started crying, and then he said, my wife sent me a picture of the baby today. How could my heart not be torn into pieces? Now, my heart goes out to the family that lost loved ones on this plane right here. As a traveler, this is something that, it's in the back of our minds whenever we step foot on a plane. We try not to think about it. We try to just block it. But there's still that I forget the ratio, 1 in 1 millionth chance that this might happen. When it does happen, it's a tragedy. It not only affects the lives of people that were on the plane, but it affects the lives of the family, and it affects the lives of people that would like to travel, especially after they open, they pretty much open outside again after the pandemic. Now, the reason why I said that, the plane being 26 years old doesn't mean anything was there was an incident like this that happened not too long ago. It happened in Taiwan, and I'm actually in Taiwan right now. It actually happened February 4th, 2015. It was called Trans-Asia Airways Flight 235. Look that up. 43 people lost their lives on that plane, and there were only 15 survivors. What happened was, as the plane was taking off, as the plane was taking off, the engine malfunctioned, something happened, and then it dipped back down. And in order to stop the impact, because it was going to hit the water, it was going to land in the water, the plane turned on its side so that the wing could clip the highway to slow it down. And then they landed in the water. Now, the reason why I mentioned earlier, a plane being 26 years old doesn't mean anything, because that plane, the Trans-Asia Airways Flight 235, that plane was barely a year old. I think it was not even a year old. I remember it being brand new, and that happened. And the thing is stuff like this can happen anywhere, anytime, any place. And, there's a level of fear that you have whenever you get on some of these airlines. I remember, I used to live on mainland China. Okay. And there's different airlines in China. And let me tell you, when I got on some of those planes going to from Beijing to Shenzhen, there were times the plane would take off and there were people who weren't in their seats. They weren't buckled up, and they were just arguing with one another on the plane. They were fighting with one another on the plane as the plane was taking off. I kid you not, and then I remember there was one time, I forget, one of those airlines through China. It was like a hard landing, and the guy landed so hard on the runway that like it bounced so hard, everybody's head just bobbled down. And then he landed so hard, he had to go back up and then turn around and land again. It was the hardest landing I ever experienced in my life. You know, some of these airlines, you know, they'll take off in the middle of the storm. They don't like delaying flights. I remember one time in Thailand, this also happened in 2015. This actually happened September 6, 2015, where, you know, there was an airline in Thailand that delayed the flight because it was a major storm. And they're like, hey, you know, we can't fly through the storm. You know, we just can't fly through the storm. Like, we don't want anything tragic to happen. So we're just going to delay the flight for 10 hours. And there were like Chinese tourists who were angry. They threw a huge fit. And then they started singing the Chinese national anthem in the airport. And this is still on Google. Like, you could Google this, what I'm saying. Type in Chinese tourists in Thailand facing 10-hour flight sings Chinese anthem. All right. Now, I don't know what the weather was like with this Indonesian airline. I don't know what the weather was like that day. But sometimes some of these airlines, they'll just push and push to just let the show go on, stay on schedule, stay on time, and then they just take off anyways. And things like this happen. I mean, in the beginning, like, we didn't even know that it crashed. Well, I mean, we assumed that it did, but I saw this on Friday or Saturday. Well, actually Saturday. No, I saw it on Saturday. The original headline on Twitter said that it went missing. And that brought me back to the Malaysian airline Flight 370 from March 8th, 2014, when that airline went missing. And there was a huge uproar about it because, like, people were just clueless. And that was heading to Beijing. You know, a lot of Chinese nationals in China, there was a huge uproar about that, you know, as they should be. They should be angry. Over 239 people lost their lives. You know, to this day, I still don't think they recovered all the debris, like everything on that plane. The majority of what was on that plane is still at the bottom of the ocean to that day. They didn't recover much. So be careful whenever you get on some of these planes, you fly with some of these airlines. Make sure they have a good reputation. You know, I will say this, you know, at times I know that flights getting delayed, it pisses a lot of people off. Sure, I get it. But the delays are there to save your life. And I'm not talking, I'm pushing the Indonesian flight to the side. I would say the best airline that I've ever flown on, and I haven't flown on every airline in the world. I've been on dozens and dozens and dozens of different planes, but I'll say the best airline I've ever flown on was, and a lot of people might disagree with me on this, was Air Canada. Man, Air Canada, when I was in Canada, like, the flights from Alberta to Ontario to Toronto, they would always get delayed. Like, me and my friends would fly out every like 2 or 3 weeks. We'd always fly out every 2-3 weeks. And it was always a delay. And the reason for that is, you know, for safety reasons, for safety measures, the wind is too strong. You know, it's delayed because they have to warm up the airplane. You know, it's in the wintertime, it's negative 40 degrees outside. They're like, hey, we're going to have to delay this plane. We need to warm it up some more. It's going to be at about an hour and a half. Even in the summertime, the winds would pick up. So there was always a delay, but you don't hear about planes going down, planes crashing in Canada that much, if at all, really. You know, I can't, I would have to Google it. But the airlines who do delay flights, those are good airlines to fly with. They're going to make sure, like, no, we're going to get you to your destination the safest way possible. We're not going to fly through these strong winds. We're not going to fly through these storms. We're going to make sure that you get there in one piece, because if we fly through this storm right here, if we do like that one incident that happened in Thailand where all the Chinese nationals just started singing the national anthem because it was a 10-hour delay, you would have another Flight 370 incident once again. So what would you rather do? Would you rather risk losing your life or actually make it there safe in one piece? Because it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'd rather get the pushback from delaying the flight than to get the pushback from losing all my passengers to casualties. You see what I'm saying? So anyways, like, subscribe, comment, share this video. If you want to support the channel, click the link in the description box below for the Buy Me a Coffee website. You can either become a member and learn more about Asian culture, or you could just simply make a donation and show your appreciation for the site right there. All donations are appreciated. All right. I'm over and I'm out. See you on the next video. Peace.